Welcome to this session where we'll be talking about epics. What is epics? More than likely, if you're working on a Windows environment and developing something such as a script with an SSIS, you'll use something such as C# or VB.NET. If you work in a Linux environment and scripting, you might use something such as a JavaScript, or reporting, something such as Python. So epics is a proprietary language developed by Salesforce.com. Epics is a strongly typed, unlike Java and C#, is object-oriented programming language that allows developers to execute the flow and transaction control statements on the Force.com platform server in conjunction with calls to the Force.com API. And just like Java, syntax-wise, it acts like database store procedures. It enables the developers to add business logic to most system events, including button clicks, related record updates, and Visual Force pages. Epics code could be initiated by web service request and from triggers on objects. Epics is included in Performance Edition, Unlimited Edition, Enterprise Edition, and the Developer Edition of Salesforce. Now, features of the epics as a language. First off, integrated. Epics has built-in support for DML operations like insert, update, delete, and also DML exception handling. It has support for inline SOQL and SOSL query handling, which returns a set of object records. We will study the Salesforce objects, SOQL, SOSL in detail in some of the future sessions. Secondly, Java-like syntax and easy to use. Epics is easy to use as it uses a syntax similar to that of Java. For example, variable declaration, loop syntax, and conditional statements. Next, strongly integrated with data. Epics is data-focused and designed to execute multiple queries and DML statements together. It issues multiple transaction statements on database. Next, Epics is strongly typed. Epics is a strongly typed language. It uses direct reference to schema objects like Salesforce objects, and any invalid reference quickly fails if it is deleted or if it's wrong data type. Multi-tenant environment. Epics runs in a multi-tenant environment, and as such, the Epics runtime engine is designed to guard closely against runaway code, preventing it from monopolizing shared resources. Any code that violates limits fails with easy to understand error messages. Upgrades automatically. Epics is upgraded as part of Salesforce releases. We don't have to upgrade it manually. And also, easy testing. Epics provides built-in support for unit test creation and execution, including test results that indicate how much code is covered and which parts of our code can be more efficient. As a developer, when should I use Epics? One thing that's really nice about Salesforce platform is there's a lot of possible customization without having to code. So Epics should be used when we're not able to implement the complex business functionality using the pre-built and existing out-of-the-box functionalities. Below are some of those cases that we need to use Epics over Salesforce configuration. We can use Epics when we want to create web services with integrating other systems. Create email services for email blast or email setup. Perform complex validation over multiple objects at the same time and also custom validation implementation. Create complex business processes that are not supported by existing workflow functionality or flows. Create custom transactional logic, that is logic that occurs over the entire transaction, not just a single record or object, like using the database methods for updating the records. Perform some logic when a record is modified, or modify the related object's record when there is some event which has caused the trigger to fire. Those are some of the cases in which we would choose to use Epics. As we can see in this diagram, Epix runs entirely on demandforce.com platform. There are two sequences of actions when the developer saves the code and when an end user performs some action which invokes the Epix code, as we can see. That's developer action and end user action. First with the developer action. When a developer writes and saves Epix code to the platform application server first compiles the code into a set of instructions that can be understood by the Epix runtime interpreter and then saves those instructions as metadata. End user action. When an end user triggers the execution of Epix by clicking a button or accessing a Visualforce page, the platform application server retrieves the compiled instructions from the metadata and sends them through the runtime interpreter before returning the result. The end user observes no differences in execution time as compared to the standard application platform request. Since Epix is the proprietary language of Salesforce, it does not support some features with a general programming language does. Understanding and examining the Epix syntax. Fortunately, Epix code typically contains many things that we might find familiar from other programming languages such as C# and Java. For example, variable declaration. As strongly typed language, we must declare every variable with data type in Epix. As seen in the code in the image, list account is declared with the data type as list of accounts. SOAP query. This will be used to fetch the data from Salesforce database. This query shown in the screenshot below is fetching data from account object. Loop statement. This loop statement is used for iterating over a list or iterating over a piece of code for a specified number of times. In the code that we see in this screenshot, iteration will be same as the number of records we have. Flow control statement. The if statement is used for flow control in this code. Based on certain condition, it is decided whether to go for execution or to stop the execution of the particular piece of code. For example, in the code that we see, it is checking whether the list is empty or it contains records. DML statement. Performs the records insert, update, upsert, delete operation on the records in the database. For example, the code given helps in updating accounts with new field value. Following is an example of how an Epix code snippet will look like. We're going to study all these Epix programming concepts further in this session and following sessions.